Hey Westside, I'm here at historic City Hall in downtown Calgary. Over the last couple of weeks, we've been exploring the idea of faith in the suburban context. And today we're asking the question, what's the unique role of the faith community in response to the needs in the neighborhoods around us? So I thought, who better to ask than our city's fearless leader? Let's talk to Mayor Nenshi. Thank you, Mayor Nenshi, for being willing to speak to our community at Westside.
Well, thank you. It's a great opportunity for me to spend a little bit of time virtually by video with your community. I actually spend a lot of my time talking to people of faith in different kinds of faith congregations across our city. Because one of the challenges we have in our city, one of the things that concerns me about our city is increasing stratification. Increasingly people in their own neighborhoods, whether those are virtual neighborhoods like a faith community or physical neighborhoods, not mixing with different people in the community. One of the things we're starting to see in Calgary is this stratification where you have communities that are more affluent, communities that are less affluent, that continue in that way generationally. And that's challenging for two reasons. The first is because you don't have that mixing. And a city, by definition, means people from different backgrounds come together. But the second problem is that for those who live in more affluent communities, we tend to think that social concerns in our community, concerns around poverty, around housing, and so on, are issues for somewhere else, are issues for another neighborhood. And in fact, the literature proves that that is just not the case. You know, on West Calgary, which we tend to think of as more affluent, there's lots of poverty there. There's poverty among new Canadians. There's poverty among senior citizens. There's certainly poverty among people who are perhaps house rich but cash poor. And all of these things are things that are happening in our very communities, and it's important for us to be aware of that.
In your role and your vision for the city of Calgary, do you have a place for a unique role that the faith community can play?
When we talk about poverty in our community, faith communities have traditionally been extremely engaged in the fight against poverty. Everything from running soup kitchens to starting missions to, housing homeless people. But I think that as the issues become more sophisticated, as issues around poverty and homelessness become more challenging, we've seen faith communities in some ways step back a little bit, saying, these are issues for experts to deal with. These are issues for the system to deal with. But in reality, these are issues for human beings to deal with, for each of us as people to manage. It starts by looking within our own congregations and making sure that no one in our congregations ever feels alone, that no one in our congregation ever feels that they do not exist in a place where if they stumble, someone will be there to catch them, where an entire community exists to help them stay on their feet and help them and their families succeed. I think most faith communities do a great job of that within their congregation. So how do we take that same sense, that same feeling, and apply it to all of our neighbors across the community? It's not hard to find these social issues. It's not hard to find them. What's hard is to recognize them and to open our hearts to them. Our community is made by everyday people using their everyday hands and their everyday voices to make extraordinary change. And I really believe that. I believe every one of us has that power in our hands, our hearts, our souls, and our minds to be able to make the community better. That's part of the price we pay for living. We are so lucky to live in this place where everybody has opportunity, where everybody, regardless of where they came from or what they look like or how they worship, or if they don't, has the opportunity right here, right now to live a great Canadian life. But that doesn't come without a fight. And it doesn't come without those of us who are blessed with resources, whether they're physical, financial, intellectual, or spiritual, to use those resources to ensure that those who don't have the resources also have the opportunity.
Mayor Nenshi, that's brilliant. Thanks so much for sharing your heart with our community.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.